So, Michael,
Yes, Luke.
Charlie's Angels.
Yes.
The movie has flopped. Who could have seen that coming? Not really a surprise, to be honest. I mean, he was asking for a Charlie's Angels reboot, but do you know what hasn't flopped? The views of our video on YouTube of Charlie's Angels.
Oh,
the review.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm kind of too. I haven't actually clicked on it because I assume that it's going to be filled with angry Indians asking why they can't see Cameron Diaz's Bob.
Yeah, here's the thing: 850 views, I think, around that total, and that is, really big for the channel. And so I was wondering, how come this got so many views? And it reminded me of Mamma Mia, which also has a lot of views. And obviously, what's that movie that's got all the Indians mad? Slumdog Millionaire. That's it.
Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah. But here's the thing: I think when we review movies which are advertised to people who are not that good with technology, then what we have is we have a lot of views. So we should.
Yeah.
So obviously, Mamma Mia, Charlie's Angels, like people who go to watch that, they're probably not the savviest when it comes to technology. They're literally the types to type in Charlie's Angels on YouTube and expect to see the movie without paying for it.
Although, to be honest, it's kind of crazy that anybody can type in Charlie's Angels and get like our review up there.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you for the algorithm for, I don't know. I don't think we've got any subscribers from it, but at least...
we got 2 likes and 2 dislikes, so, opinions quite split. But no, I just feel like maybe if we want to up our view count, we should do more movies that are targeted towards people who are not necessarily tech savvy.
Luke, I know where you're going with this. We need to do more terrible Christian films. Think about it, okay, if we did God's Not Dead, are you telling me that we would not get, like, millions of people? Like, think of all the old ladies out there who are like, oh, my daughter's going to college. I better make sure that I find a good film to show her. I'll go onto the YouTubes and I'll search for God's Not Dead. And then they'd find us. And then we'd convert them to the one true religion, Scientology.
Select and reflect. Oh.
Select and reflect.
Okay. Well, anyway, we got a lot of views, so I think that's going to be our tactic from now on. Basically.
Yeah, and obviously, that's why we're looking at this film, which is marketed to a lot of ladies.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. Anyway, let's get on with it.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films from the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And today we are going to be breaking the first rule of Fight Club by talking about Fight Club. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Fight Club?
That was very clever, Michael. Very, very clever.
I know, I felt clever as I said it.
So, Fight Club is a 1999 American film directed by David Fincher and starring Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, and Helena Bonham Carter. It is based on the 1996 novel of the same name by Chuck, and he's got a really complicated last name, like Palahniuk.
It's like, it's Palahniuk. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast, which I'm sure is a big interest to you.
Ah, right. Well, what was he saying on there?
He was basically saying that he doesn't like snowflakes.
Okay, yep.
He's really red-pilled.
He really believes Tyler Durden's message then, when it concerns masculinity.
Yeah, it's sort of like, the whole Starship Troopers thing.
Yes.
Where yeah. So maybe it's a Starship Troopers.
Yeah, a Starship Troopers kind of thing, yeah. Also stars Jared Leto, by the way, famous for playing the Joker. And we shall talk about that.
Well, you know what? This film is about how we do indeed live in a society.
Yeah, I was going to mention the Joker later in this film, so Jared Leto being in it is, very nice. It's
serendipitous.
Released on October the 15th, 1999, so just over 20 years ago in the United States, was Fight Club. And Michael, can you tell me the budget for Fight Club?
Yeah, okay, I don't know, let's go for like 25 million?
63.
I'm surprised. I thought this film looked pretty slick, but I just didn't think they would have the resources for that. So I don't know.
Maybe Brad Pitt commanded a lot of money. What can I say? Because that's a fuck ton of money for what? There's no special effects apart from a few.
Yeah, there's like some CGI tracking shots and things, but
it's crazy amount of money for 1999. And can you tell me how much money it raked in at the box office?
3 monies. Honestly, I'm not sure. Let's go for something that sounds like a lot of money. 210 million.
210? Not even half, Michael. 101.2. So this movie really did not do well.
And if we were obeying the law, the law where you say like they spend twice as much money on marketing as they do on not marketing, then
they made a loss. Is what you're trying to say?
Yeah, made a loss. Yes, well done, thank you.
Yeah, so I just going to tell you this: studio executives did not like the film. and they restructured Fincher's intended marketing campaign to try and reduce anticipated losses. So Fight Club failed to meet studio expectations for the box office and received polarized reactions from critics. By the way, do you know what the score it has on Rotten Tomatoes?
I don't know, like probably something kind of in the middle or very high. It's either going to be in the middle because that would reflect the division, or very high because that's going to be showing the, how ironic it is that they used to think it was so mixed. So I'm going to go for the first one and say it's got like 62.
79.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of, fine.
Yeah. The film later found commercial success with its DVD release, establishing Fight Club as a cult classic and causing the media to revisit the film. On the 10th anniversary of the film's release, the New York Times dubbed it the defining cult movie of our time. So, again, I guess, it is an example of a cult movie. And there is a cult in the actual movie, but it's certainly not your usual movie. That's why we're reviewing it after 20 years. And it's crazy to think how little buzz it got at the time, considering how well known it is and how popular it is in the culture. And obviously, you started this talk about Fight Club, referencing that line: "First rule of Fight Club: don't talk about Fight Club," and that is something that is still incredibly well known. That line. So that's a bit of background on Fight Club. And Michael, did you like this movie?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I'm gonna say I kind of liked it.
Yeah, I mean, so I kind of am of the same mind as you in terms of like the kind of, but I feel like maybe my kind of isn't as much of a kind of. My kind of's a kind of, because I'm more on the side of I did like it, but I am kind of on the side of I kind of liked it.
Okay, well, having said that, nitpicks. How many have you got?
I think I've got 3. Let me just actually click on, 3.
I've got 4, by the way, so you go first.
Alright, okay, so number 1, this was like a little one, but seeing as I worked in life insurance, for my sins, I need to point out anytime life insurance is brought up and say, so Edward Norton brings up like how much life insurance pays, and like says it pays triple if you die on a business trip. I don't know about that, but what I do want to know is who could Edward Norton possibly be getting life insurance on behalf of? Because obviously life insurance is, if you provide for somebody, then that attaches a certain value to your life. And then if you die, then that money goes to the person who you would have provided for, thus protecting them. The question is, Edward Norton isn't responsible for anybody, so he wouldn't get a life insurance policy. That's what I'm saying. You'd go, okay, Mr. Norton, you're getting a life insurance policy. Who do you want the life insurance policy to be payable to? And he'd go, no, I don't know, my IKEA, and you go, okay, well, you realise that you are Brad Pitt, and then
and so then the movie wouldn't happen.
I didn't realise, and it's very weird to me that Edward Norton was not aware that Tyler blew up his condo, because like they have a conversation on the phone, him and the detective expert man, and he says, "Oh, we found blah blah blah, like nitroglycerin or whatever, and someone used dynamite to blow up your house." And you think at that point he's kind of realised that Tyler is the one who blew up his house, and that he just doesn't really care because he's like, moved on from all of that, man. But then later on, when they're in the car, Tyler's like, "Oh, guess who blew up your house?" Or like, "I'm the one who blew up your house, and that's why I did it." And everyone was like, "What? You're the one who blew up my house?" And I thought that was weird because it was like, obviously, you already know he has dynamite. He's like some kind of crazy cult leader.
I like, by the way, when he's talking to the police officer, they kept in that line where he said the Academy should be watching or something.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Academy. More like society. And just in general, I mean, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to say about this, but just the whole thing about him shooting himself in the mouth. Like, the first thing that comes to get, if the logic is like whatever he does to Tyler, or whatever he does himself, that's being done to Tyler, well, then why? It doesn't make any sense. Like, he shoots himself in the mouth. I guess, like, the implication is that it comes out, like, the side of his jaw, because that's kind of where she dabs the gauze. And he kind of has, like, a weird cough. I don't know, like, that seems like an underreaction. But also, what kind of weird dream logic is it where, like, shooting yourself in kind of the, side of the mouth translates to your schizophrenic alternative personality being shot in the head? And also, I think clearly if this did work, then that's what actual therapists would use. They go, okay, you've been diagnosed with schizophrenia, so we're going to need you to shoot yourself in the side of the jaw. I don't know. Yeah. There's the whole logic there made no sense. It would have made like so much more sense if he would have like, and I'm just going to say this as an alternative, like he shot himself in the actual like brain, but then it was revealed that like, and then Tyler, died because he'd been shot in the brain. But then it was revealed that Edward Norton actually didn't really shoot himself in the brain, he was just imagining it. And in that way, it'll be like he pretends to shoot himself in the brain, which kills Tyler, but then he doesn't actually get shot. That would make more sense to me than he does shoot himself, but in the side of the face, and that translates to Tyler getting shot in the head. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, no, I get
what
you're
for, Luke.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, you explained it quite well. Obviously, I didn't need to say anything more. It's kind of stupid to know how shooting someone in the side of your neck makes you not bipolar or not schizophrenic anymore. But there you go. Anyway, so my nitpicks. Tyler Durden, even though he's imaginary, can apparently go and steal another guy's car. If you remember, this is when they get back to the airport. Yeah. And obviously, you could say, well, he's just imagining Tyler Durden steal the car. But is he also imagining the guy running after him? Right. So, hey,
he's imagining. Well, a lot of people don't know this, but the twist in the extended director's cut is that he actually has 3 personalities: super cool, suave Tyler Durden, and guy whose car got stolen.
Yeah, overweight businessman.
That's his other.
His car gets stolen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again,
got you.
Tyler is fighting Ed Norton and the guys who come over, to say, hey, what are you doing? What's going on here? And that's how Fight Club gets started. If you just saw like Edward Norton just doing that in a parking lot, you'd assume he's
what are you doing, Edward Norton?
Yeah, and you just stay away. I don't know really why some people are coming over to check him out, like when he's fighting himself. But anyway, there you go.
To be honest, I may watch with some voyeuristic pleasure, but I wouldn't start a conversation.
Okay, yeah. So the most famous line from the movie: "You do not talk about Fight Club." Rule number 1: You do not talk about Fight Club. How's that the case? How many people can join? And Tyler Durden points this out. It's like, people aren't obeying the rules. Now, people really obey the rules in this. Well, it turns into a cult, but at the start, it's a group, and people do obey the rules. That it's regulated quite strictly. So how come people are just talking about it to everybody? I don't know. It just seems like if it's rule number 1 and you say it's the second rule as well, and it's being frequently being broken, I don't know about that.
Well, you're forgetting Rule 0, Luke.
What's Rule 0?
There are no rules.
Fair enough. Okay, so here's the thing. Why... Okay, right. Tyler tells Ed Norton not to talk to him about... I'm just going to say Brad Pitt. So Brad Pitt
that's fine.
Tells Ed Norton not to talk to Marla about Brad Pitt, because obviously it will reveal that he is actually real. Spoilers there. And Ed Norton will find that out. But I don't know how he doesn't find this out from talking to other characters. For example, like Bob.
Yeah.
So, but Bob knows who Ed Norton is. What if Bob is talking to Ed Norton about Tyler? What if Bob says, what if Ed Norton mentions Tyler to Bob, and Bob says, wait, I thought you were Tyler. And then suddenly his mind's blown. Like, he can't talk to... It shouldn't just be he can't talk to Marla about Brad Pitt. He can't... He shouldn't be able to talk to anybody about Brad Pitt, because there is a chance in every conversation it's revealed that he has 2 personalities and has 2 identities. So there you go. That's just something I picked up on. I get the rule, obviously, but it should be increased to be all people, because otherwise I just think if you're with a bunch of people for months and months, there will at some point come to be a realization that Tyler Durden is Ed Norton, and he'd figure that out by talking to somebody else apart from Marla. But anyway, so that's it. I think we should get into the plot now, Michael.
Yes. So, plot.
I'll just read it out if you want first.
Yeah, hit me with that plot.
I'll hit you with that plot. So, Norton plays the unnamed narrator who is discontented with his white-collar job. He forms a fight club with soap salesman Tyler Durden and becomes embroiled in a relationship with him and a destitute woman, Marla Singer. So yeah, that doesn't really go far enough, I'd say, because obviously what happens is they're fighting in a fight club, and that then blossoms into a cult. And this cult is set to take down, a bunch of credit card companies and so forth. And yeah, eventually you have the twist all along that there is actually no Tyler Durden. And
the real cult was the friends we made along the way.
Ed Norton is Tyler Durden. So Michael, what do you think of the plot? Tell me something about it.
It's good. Something I was thinking about this film is that it feels very long. Like the first time I watched this film, I wasn't watching it on anything where I could kind of check the time. I was watching it on something called a DVD. And is it like even possible to check? Whenever you like pause a DVD, you just pause. You don't get a little slider at the bottom.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, so I had no idea how long this film was because I just watched it. on DVD. And at the end of it, I thought to myself, like, wow, that must have been like 3 hours. And okay, it's like not massively far off, but it's only like, 2020?
Yeah.
Which is, that's like a Star Wars film. And yet Star Wars films feel quite short. This film feels very long. Like, it feels insanely long. It's like, and I think the reason for that, and this is maybe a neutral observation, I think possibly there's thoughts one way or the other, but the film is, I think, quite fast-paced, but like fast-paced in the way where it's a lot of things happening very quickly, such that it feels like a lot has happened, which makes it feel quite long. So I guess the main thing I would say is I think I quite like that because you feel like you're getting a lot of bang for your buck if bucks were time. Like, you feel like, you know what, at least a lot has happened over this 2 hours and 20 minutes. Like, I feel like, they did a pretty good job at telling this story where a lot of stuff happens and it feels like a really long journey, but it's actually not. And yet it doesn't feel like impatient.
No, yeah.
It feels like, I think it works with, I guess, kind of the crazy flow of the film that basically you just jump really quickly from one thing to the other. But I will say, like, yeah, I kind of liked how I did feel like a lot had happened. It wasn't like Breaking Bad, where you watch like a whole season and you think like, wow, that was like maybe one episode's worth of stuff that just happened.
Wow, okay, yeah. No, I
hate Breaking Bad.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention Breaking Bad later, but yeah, I think in this movie, you're right, it does feel quite long. And I hadn't really considered it, but there is a lot of stuff that happens in this movie. Like a ton. I just look at the plot on Wikipedia and I just skip over a bunch of stuff that happens because they just can't fill it up. They'd just be there listing all the stuff for like ages.
Yeah. Like, it's so weird that he doesn't meet Tyler Durden until like after the whole self-help group thing.
Yes, that self-help group thing feels so long ago.
The self-help group thing feels like it's like a big part of the film. Like, oh yeah, he's got insomnia and he starts going to self-help groups, and you only just realize afterwards that he doesn't even meet Tyler Durden until after that whole thing's over, and then they start beating each other up, and next thing you know, they've got the Fight Club started, and it's like, wow. And literally that happens, it's been like half an hour and you've already had the whole thing with his insomnia and how he went to the self-help groups, and then how Marla showed up and she was being really annoying, and how that ruined his chance, ruined the whole experience for him, and then how he formed that deal with her, and then how he has his job with the car insurance people, and then he starts traveling everywhere. He has the whole monologue about traveling and how traveling's crap, and then his apartment blows up, and then he goes to see Tyler Durden and like he starts fighting. I'm like, that's so much stuff, and it's like just not much has happened. I mean, not much of the film has been.
I know, like
crazy.
They really cram a lot into that half an hour. I wrote a bunch of stuff down about that opening half an hour, like, and I was like, I was thinking at one stage, like, holy shit, I've written so much and I'm not even like a quarter of the way into the film. This is crazy. So yeah, anyway, I guess you covered all what happens in the first quarter of the movie just then, and then obviously so we have to mention the twist, I guess. We've already mentioned it, but obviously Tyler Durden isn't real, and Ed Norton concocts him in his mind because he's schizophrenic, I guess, or maybe it's because of his insomnia, possibly that instead. But I really want to know why he all of a sudden concocts Tyler Durden inside his head, because he does it on the plane, obviously. But what sets that off for him? What triggers that? Because there's not a moment that really makes it seem like that would trigger off this alternative personality that he imagines inside his head. So he sees the body of a dead family being burnt alive, but he doesn't react to it, and from talking to that woman on the plane, you get the sense that he's seen a bunch of those sort of things, so that wouldn't trigger it. I don't know, it would make sense perhaps if his house got blown up, and that tipped him over the edge,
and then
also losing all the stuff in his suitcase. But obviously he meets Tyler Durden first, and then you realise that Tyler kind of blew up his own apartment, even though it could have just been Ed Norton doing it and Tyler hadn't manifested himself yet. But yeah, it would make sense that all the loss of all that stuff makes him want to liberate himself and give up on his mundane life. But I think Tyler Durden should be met after that, perhaps.
Yeah. I've never really thought about that, but I think you are right. It would make more, or there definitely could have, and I guess should have been something to precipitate his sudden jump. Although I think, I guess, like, ultimately, you sort of do just have to say it was like, I guess it would be a straw that broke the camel's back situation.
But what was the straw,
though? Well, okay, so I guess straw that broke the camel's back isn't really the right term, because...
Are you saying it's more like a slope? Maybe just slipping down?
So in other words, like, basically, like, you start off being, a bit crazy, and then... eventually, this would be my only thought I could say from a narrative perspective. Well, not necessarily from a narrative perspective, but a thematic perspective. If the point of this film is supposed to be like how just the modern life is just so rubbish, then you could say in that sense it wouldn't really make sense to have a big traumatic event happen which causes this sudden change, because you'd say, well, actually, it's just the plain mundanity of life that causes him to invent this. And I'm mostly playing devil's advocate, to be honest. Like, I'm sort of indifferent towards this, but
no, well,
I could see that argument being made.
I'm a big fan of
say.
Things happening for a reason. And
really, Luke, sounds like you buy into the message we're all told. You know what, Luke? We go to school and we're told that I'm trying to do a Tyler Durden monologue. Basically, what I'm saying is, Luke, nothing happens for a reason. Everything's meaningless. Get over it, you snowflake.
Wow. Okay. So we obviously. I just think if you learn.
No, yeah,
that he blew up his own apartment. I'm like, well, why did he decide to do it at that stage? What made him do that? What made him concoct Tyler Durden? It'd be nice if, for example, if that was seen the dead family being burnt alive in that car. If that had been something that tipped him over the edge, because he'd never seen something like that happen with 4 people dying. But again, he plays it off like, oh, it's just another day, just another, thing I have to do with this job. I don't know. It could just be some little thing. That, like, literally the straw that broke the camel's back. It just could be some little thing, but there doesn't appear to be anything that makes him, go over the edge. So that is a shame. So he meets Tyler Durden. Obviously, they have a beer. They start fighting. Then they start this fight club, and things gradually escalate until they become a terrorist organization. And obviously, what's interesting is what you see. I think it's kind of interesting. You just see this shit happen off screen, obviously, like because obviously you're not meant to know that because you just follow Ed Norton around and you don't follow Tyler Durden around because he doesn't exist without Ed Norton. You don't actually see like the build up of what's happening, and so all this shit is a surprise to you, which I kind of like as well. I don't know about you. I just like it's like, oh wow, so this is really escalated from a group which is fighting. Now they're fucking burning smiley faces onto buildings and shit.
Yeah, I actually think that is good because basically it is sort of like everything is out of Edward Norton's control. So essentially, it starts with just a bunch of people fighting, and then they become kind of a cult, and then they become a terrorist organization, and then they almost become sort of a conspiracy level secret society with like all these members in high ranking places, and obviously in the end they end up taking out this all the credit card companies in the world. And I think it's interesting that this all happens kind of behind Edward Norton's back, as it were, and obviously you get kind of this idea where he talks about how these organizations are spread all over the world, and like that Tyler Durden has become this myth that everyone talks about, like, oh, he's so crazy, so mythical, which I think helps. Obviously, I mean, that's helpful that Tyler Durden is seen as some kind of weird myth. That definitely helps with the fact that Tyler Durden's ultimate identity is supposed to be not revealed.
I think
it's more helpful to have him be not well known.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I would normally kind of think to nitpick this maybe, or just criticize it, and say, well, I don't see how this could happen, basically. But the fact that it happens off screen, it's like it's an excuse. So it's like, how the fuck did this become a terrorist organization all of a sudden?
That's a good point.
Yeah, but it is kind of like as well, oh, well, it makes sense from a viewer's point of view that you wouldn't have a clue and it's not explained. So they get away with it. I think that's good. And I guess I don't really have anything else to say much on the plot because I think, to be honest, we've just kind of explained it. I mean, really what's most interesting about this movie is the themes. So I think...
Well, I have one thing I want to talk about with the plot,
Okay,
Luke.
go on.
What did you think about the presentation of his relationship with Marla as some kind of romance being fulfilled like this? Because to me it just felt a bit weird because it was like they hated each other and then suddenly at the end they're all like holding hands and being cute together. I don't know. I don't really think this film really needed a romantic element, given that it felt almost kind of forced, like as if she was just there.
Yeah, I think
as a character, and then she became and I almost find it kind of objectionable and possibly even problematic that she was a genuine character and a real character who felt kind of believable in a crazy drug addicted way, and then at the end of it, she's sort of just the romantic interest, and dare I say, a damsel in distress. Don't let Anita Sarkeesian hear about it, but...
Okay, no, I think, to be honest, well, she's there to help facilitate the twist. So you have to have a relationship, so Tyler or Brad Pitt is having to have a relationship with someone else, and then it's, you discover it's actually Ed Norton who's having the relationship, and, he's really just, blown away by that, and that the audience would be as well watching it for the first time, and so that's what her purpose is, I think. Like, that's why she's in this movie. So the twist is even more impactful. I do think she has a bit of her own role. Like, I mean, obviously it's kind of the antagonistic force with the whole support group thing, and then when she shows up to be banged by Tyler, Edward Norton's like, "Oh, she's already showing up here too. I don't like this." I think maybe and I'm even kind of okay with like the fact that she's going to be targeted and he wants to protect her. I'm just like, yeah, when it gets to the point where it's like, oh no, now she's been captured and Edward Norton, the hero, needs to save her so they can hold hands and be in love, and he's like, "You caught me at a really difficult moment in my life." Wop, 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 wop. I don't know. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I think here's the thing. I think you can argue, obviously, Ed Norton falls into this nihilistic path of his, and she is kind of the epitome of nihilism. Like, everything about her, personality, her beliefs, but yeah, they don't really do anything with it. Like, that's after she disrupts his classes or groups that he likes to go to. Yeah, she basically just comes around, has sex with him, and then that's why I said she's just in it really for the reveal. They could have done more with her, I feel, than they did.
No, yeah, but you're right. I mean, I think definitely she does play a big part in the reveal. And speaking of the reveal, I've got a question for you. Did you watch this film for the first time knowing there was the twist?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, see, I watched this film for the first time not knowing there was a twist, and I didn't anticipate it. Now, admittedly, I was maybe... I mean, see, the thing is, I wasn't that young. I would think I was like maybe... possibly even as old as 15. I was going to say 13 or 14, but I think maybe even 15. So I was old enough to kind of pick up on these things. And I think actually the twist is... I think it does work quite well. If you have managed to avoid finding out about the twist, I think it does work well. All I can say is that personally, when I watched it, I didn't see it coming, and I was like, oh wow, they're the same person. That's crazy. I did pick up on it like a tiny bit earlier than Edward Norton when... but I get it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing.
And I thought it was a good twist.
Yeah, the twist works. It's a really good twist, basically. It's really, really good because it works well from just a twist standpoint. You don't see it coming, like you said, and there are, things you can pick up along the way that suggest that a twist is going to happen, which we'll get onto those, the clues, if you will. But it also works really well narrative-wise or theme-wise. There is a reason why Tyler doesn't actually exist. There is a reason thematically. So so it's a fantastic twist. It really is. It's better than... I'm just thinking of like M. Night Shyamalan. Like, these are the kind of twists that he'd love, and it's better than anything he's done. I
think that's the thing. It feels like it's not a twist for the sake of being a twist.
Yeah, exactly.
Like even with The Sixth Sense, really. And that's obviously M. Night Shyamalan as well. I say it, but obviously some people like Unbreakable. It's arguably M. Night Shyamalan's best film, The Sixth Sense. And that has a famous twist at the end. But having said that, is there necessarily a reason why the twist needs to be there? I mean, obviously, like the
in
plot
The Sixth Sense,
different.
Obviously,
yeah, but there's no like thematic reason.
No,
I
can't.
Why the twist
I haven't watched it in a while, so I don't really remember. But I don't think there is. I think it's just like, Bruce Willis is dead.
Yeah, that's it. Like, basically, I was like, what if he made this film? And, what's the twist? Oh, he's dead the whole time. Like, another example would be a slightly different caliber of film, but Saw, when it's like, oh, what if the guy lying in the middle of the bathroom, seemingly dead, was actually the bad guy the whole time? Crazy. But obviously, again, not really any reason, and obviously it's completely ridiculous for the whole film. We're just
spoiling movies
the guy
now,
lying. Yeah. What if, at the end of... I'm trying to think of Shawshank Redemption, where it turns out it was a dream the whole time. What if that? There you go. Now if someone's not seeing the Shawshank Redemption, I'll go, oh, and I'll be watching it. I'll go, oh, it's so annoying because now I know that they're going to reveal at the end it was a dream the whole time, and then we'll laugh at them, won't we, Luke?
Yeah. No, but it's a really good twist.
The twist, it does work well. Yeah, and it's hidden in plain sight. Some might say, Luke.
Yeah. Obviously, this I think is. I think I brought up Bruce Willis and the fact that he's actually a ghost and he's dead. This might be a comparison. I don't know. What do you think is the bigger twist in movie history? Because these are the two I think. Like Bruce Willis is actually dead, and Brad Pitt and Edward Norton are the same person. That's what people think of. I think when they think of Fight Club, that's the immediate thing. Like whenever someone references, "Oh, it's like Fight Club," that's what I think they mention. It's like it's it's like this person is actually there's two characters, but they're actually the same person. So I think obviously when Split came out. Was it Split? Was it? There was a movie that came out and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, it's just like Fight Club." It was. I'm thinking of the Joker. Sure the Joker. When the Joker came out, because he kind of imagines that he is having a relationship with this woman who lives down the hall. Spoiler. It doesn't really impact the movie that much at all, really. And people are saying, "Oh, it's like Fight Club in that regard," and that's what they mean. It's not like, "Oh, it's because it's got an anti-consumer message," even though the Joker kind of has that. But it's like, "Oh yeah, he's imagining." Something in his he's imagining a person which doesn't actually exist. I think that right there is the most famous thing from this movie, more than the themes. But it does, like I said, the twist does work thematically, which is why it makes it so good. You were, before I just talked about that, you were talking about obviously the clues that led up to this, and you had written down some, I believe.
Yeah. So this film, something I heard somebody say, like literally within the last week, they were talking about a film. And they were basically saying, "Oh, it's one of those films you have to watch twice, like Fight Club." And the reason why people say you have to watch Fight Club twice is because once you've seen the twist, or once you know the twist, then you'll see all the big clues. And there's a few. So the first one I kind of want to bring up. This isn't really an indication of them being the same person, but you get like tiny. I don't know if you picked this up, but there were tiny little flashes of Tyler in the opening third, or kind of the opening of the film before he sees Tyler.
Yes, I got that. Yes.
Did you see that? Yeah, okay. I was wondering. I mean, I do think it's kind of obvious, but I think maybe someone could not see it.
Yeah, like but apart from I don't think I saw it the first time I watched the movie, but I remember seeing it flash up at like 6 minutes and 20 seconds when he's talking to the doctor. But apparently there's a couple. I think that is it. There's a couple more flashes which I didn't get.
Yeah, no, there's another one where he's like looking out over his office, and like that one's almost a kind of Where's Wally thing, and Tyler like just flashes up like again amidst a group of people. But I did notice that. I noticed it only the second time I watched it for the podcast, and the third time I watched it in total because I've seen it before we did the podcast. But all right. But apart from that, other things. So number one, well, not number them. We never hear Edward Norton's name, which might kind of make you think if you were watching this film and you took a minute and thought about the character, you think, "Oh, no, what? We don't know his name. That's weird." Again, not really an indication. But apart from that, we have that he and Tyler have the same briefcase.
Yes.
This one's a tenuous one, but the fact that he gets called back on a payphone. I don't know about payphones because I was not born in the 1900s, but I was. wasn't born in the 1800s.
That's better, yeah.
But I think with a payphone, you can't actually get called back on a payphone. I'm 99% sure because that doesn't make sense to me. Like you can't call a payphone.
Well, you can just do reverse calls, surely.
I don't know if you can. I feel like again, I have no idea, but my thoughts.
But you're going to talk about it anyway.
Well, I feel like maybe you can't call a payphone, and therefore the fact that he was able to call a payphone suggests that, in fact, that must have been in Edward Norton's head. But okay, apart from that, see, some of these are like so on those. Like one time he says, "Sometimes Tyler's slow for me."
That's a great one.
You get things like he dreams that he is Tyler having sex with Marla, and then of course Marla wasn't. Obviously, Marla was having sex with Brad Pitt. So he dreams that he was Brad Pitt having sex with Marla. Marla was having sex with Brad Pitt, implying that maybe while he was asleep, he was actually. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And of course, then there's the way that Marla responds to being asked what she's doing in his house. That was like an interesting one because obviously it makes sense when you don't realize that they're the same person. Because Edward Norton's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like angry, and Marla's like, "What?" And she's like angry about it, and it like adds a whole other thing to it when you watch it, realizing that from Marla's perspective, and it is fun watching this film, like trying to think about. Like what was actually happening, and obviously sometimes you can nitpick that.
Here's the thing. Okay, I'm just gonna jump in there. I was gonna say it anyway. I might as well say it now because you've said it's fun watching it. I find it kind of hard to watch, almost impossible, because you know the twist. So there's so much attention because obviously you're trying to set it up so the twist is as dramatic as possible. But so much attention is paid to Ed Norton's relationship with Tyler Durden or Brad Pitt. You know, when he goes looking for him around the country and all that, he's talking about how everyone left him, including now Tyler, and he is like, I know he doesn't actually exist, and they're the same person.
Okay.
I just find it's difficult to rewatch a second time. For the first time, it's great. The first time it is great. For the second time, it is difficult to watch. But knowing, because your mind is constantly thinking, oh yeah, so this is how is this looking at this stage? Because obviously Brad Pitt doesn't exist. So when he's talking to a bunch of people, what's actually happening? My mind is constantly going to that, which does make it difficult to watch when those scenes are happening.
So I disagree with you partially, but I almost have kind of an offset agreement with you, because I actually think that what you're describing, the process of kind of knowing that Tyler is just in Edward Norton's head, and that therefore a lot of the scenes which are centered on his conflicting relationship with Tyler and things like that seem kind of a bit unreal or like uninteresting, because you know that he's ultimately just the same person as Tyler, so it's like, well, you know, it's not real, it's all in his head. I guess that's kind of the thing. Like, ultimately, the twist kind of invalidates the whole interpersonal conflict between Tyler and Edward. I agree with that, but I actually think, for me, that's a problem on the third watch, and I would imagine, hypothetically speaking, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, however many watches you have that. For me, watching it only the second time, I did enjoy... and the thing is, for me, the second time I watched this film was the first time that I've watched it for this podcast. I don't know if that's the same for you, but I watched it. So I watched it, like I say, once many years ago, and then I watched it for this podcast for the first time and enjoyed noticing all the things, knowing the twist was coming. And then the third time I watched it, which was, just now, just before we did this, I was like, okay, yeah, this is now kind of boring. And I think for the same reasons kind of you, that was like, well, we already know this. So I guess I agree with you, but I just don't agree with you that it's a problem on the second watch. I actually think on the second watch, you get an extra thing out of it by picking up all the things and imagining, like, okay, so what's actually happening? So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we kind of agree, but kind of don't.
Okay, fair enough.
So anyway,
just a couple more clues, Michael. By the way, because I know I jumped in with that thing, but a couple more clues that I got that perhaps maybe you didn't get.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So when the cult members call Ed Norton Sir, it's odd, isn't it? Because obviously Tyler.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Tyler's meant to be leading it, so why are they calling him Sir?
Oh, I didn't get that. Yeah, so well done. Good thing you jumped in.
Yeah. Another one. I don't know if you got this. Perhaps I think it's easier than the one I mentioned previously. When Tyler and Ed Norton are discussing their dads, and it's obvious they have the same dad.
I don't think I got that either, actually.
They were just comparing dads, and they were like...
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah. You know what, Luke? Yeah, well done. You got two that I hadn't got. And I already said that I thought my list was quite exhaustive. But clearly it wasn't, like, maximally exhaustive, because that's what we read. But I've got... Okay, so as for me, I mean, there's another one. Marla says, who are you talking to?
Yes.
And this happens several times, where, like...
Ed he thinks he hears noises.
Talking, yeah, Edward Norton's talking to people, and people were like, who are you talking to? Tyler and Marla were never in the same room. That's, again, doesn't necessarily imply that the full extent of the thing, but it's something which you can kind of notice. So literally, whenever Tyler walks out, Marla walks in. Tyler has the same chemical burn as Edward Norton. Another point, Ed Norton says, Tyler's words coming out of my mouth.
Yes. Anything else?
This one's a really kind of like on the nose one. And again, like, it's crazy that, again, you wouldn't really notice it, but when he starts beating himself up in the office, he says, for some reason, I thought of my first fight with Tyler. And you watch it, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, that's like literally... Again, it's an example of it's like hiding in plain sight. Like, he's literally beating himself up. Funny time he says, I thought of my first fight with Tyler. I don't know.
It's very, it's very good. It's very, never like that's the thing. I don't think that's on the nose because it's kind of a throwaway comment and you're just focusing on himself beating himself up. But
no, I guess that thing. So when I say on the nose, I kind of mean like it's on the nose in theory, and yet
yes, that's the best way to phrase it.
I guess that's it.
Yeah, I think the most on the nose one is when they're at the hospital and Brad Pitt says something and then Ed Norton repeats exactly what he says back to him while he's lying. On the table. I can't remember what he said.
I've got 5 more left, although I think, okay, so Marla says, us, what do you mean by us?
Got that,
Norton says. Similar one, Marla is confused when Edward Norton says he's not here.
Yeah, that's the obvious one, isn't it? Yeah.
I've got another one, which is Tyler talks through Edward again, which I think may have even been the scene you're referring to. Oh wait, okay. I know what it is. Sorry, the when he asked the bartender at the bar he goes to, he says, "I want to talk to Tyler Durden," and the bartender just winks, and he's like, "Is this a test?" Obviously, because he knows that Edward Norton is Tyler Durden, and there we go. The last one. Again, I've got like "You Were Here Last Thursday." I guess maybe that was the thing. I feel like that was literally that was probably leading right up to the twist, where like he should have. So basically, this is the point where like, okay, yeah, clearly he's almost there, but I guess we can still technically count that as foreshadowing because it's just before it's actually properly revealed. And there we go. Those are all the clues that twist is coming. And with all of that said, it is incredibly impressive that they were able to, like, genuinely. I mean, I think I'm kind of willing to say, even though I only have my experience to go off, that I watched this film having no idea it was a twist the first time I watched it, and I didn't see it coming at all.
Yeah, I think like I said, I watched this movie for the first time years and years ago, and I think I knew it before then, because it was just such a famous twist. I think I knew what was going to happen, but I think it was executed really, really well. Like, it just gives you, just bits and pieces here and there that infer that Brad Pitt doesn't exist, and then the build-up to him actually figuring out, like, it escalates. So you get that guy winking at the bar. Like, that's the biggest thing. That's apart. Well, I guess it is the biggest thing because you're like 2 minutes away from the reveal, so that triggers in the audience mind like, wait, why is he winking? Why is he calling him sir? And then it's revealed to it's really perfectly executed and well done. And again, it makes sense from a narrative point of view, from a thematic point of view. It's a really, really good twist. And so it's great. What else can you say about it? It's really good.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah. Good job.
Yeah, well done. So now I think we should get onto the themes of this movie, if that's okay with you, Michael.
Yeah.
So, this movie, this is the question I'm going to pose to you. Is it anti-capitalist or anti-consumerist? Because there is a difference between the two.
Yeah.
Consumerism is different, obviously, to capitalism. Now,
it's nearly Black Friday, though.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't next week Black Friday?
Yeah. Capitalism, obviously, consumerism can't exist without capitalism, but capitalism can exist without consumerism. I think you would say that's a fair comment to make, right?
I don't know, Luke. What about all those... Actually, mercantilism is basically capitalism. What about all those hunter-gatherers who were like... when it was Black Friday and they had a big sale on rocks and pieces of flint and sticks.
Yes, so obviously capitalism allows consumerism to flourish and accentuates consumerism, obviously, for its own gain. But yeah, I think... So that is the question. Is this movie anti-capitalist or anti-consumerist? Because I watched Honest trailer for this movie, for Fight Club, and it said it had an anti-capitalist message. And there are...
And you commented, well, actually.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think it there are parts of this which I think, that is actually not just anti-consumerist, it is anti-capitalist. Like Microsoft renaming the galaxies right away. I love the critiquing of the liberal capitalism, which is like, glass dishes, bubbles, imperfections, proof that they were crafted by the honest, simple, hard-working indigenous peoples of whatever. Yeah, that is good. I like that.
That's a real Elizabeth Warren moment.
It really does lay it on thick at the start, actually, just thinking about it, because there's also another reference to what kind of dining set defines me as a person. I think that's more consumerism than capitalism. Go on. What are you going to say?
I was going to say, first of all, I was actually going to say, like, some of it does feel a bit obvious with some of those lines, which is fine. But
I mean, it's obvious, but I do. Yeah. It's obvious it's not. There isn't any subtlety to it, like I said. Yeah, exactly, but I did like the line about the simple, hardworking indigenous people or whatever, because it does perfectly sum up a bunch of people who take themselves seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely. But regarding critique of capitalism or consumerism, I would say ultimately you can't really say it's a critique of capitalism, because it doesn't really kind of build up an alternative. I mean, for example, it talks about, blowing up the credit card companies and the express regions so that everyone kind of starts at zero and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's a crucial line, because it's not like to get back at them for what they've done. It's so everyone starts at zero. It's not a critique of capitalism in itself.
See, ironically, it reminds me of the line from Andrew Yang, even though it's kind of the exact opposite meaning. I think it's very similar wording and a similar notion. Andrew Yang said, UBI is not anti-capitalism. It's capitalism where people don't start at zero. Which is obviously true. UBI is not anti-capitalist.
No, yeah.
It is capitalist, but it's a capitalism where everyone starts off with a $1,000 a month foot in the door, or whatever you want to call
Basically,
it. And it's kind of a similar thing. So in other words, it's not anti-capitalism. It's just a desire to achieve some kind of redistributive justice under capitalism.
Yes. It is. It's making sure that the players in the game, I guess, it's not as unequal. I imagine it to like if you're playing on FIFA. And you get like a...
you play with them balls like it's FIFA.
You get... you're playing like FIFA Ultimate Team, and you get like a really amazing player in a pack that you can now sell for a bunch of coins, and then you've got a bunch of coins. It's like you're playing the game, but it's just a way to give someone else a leg up. So yeah, I guess that's what UBI is. And it's there is one scene I think which is the biggest critique. This movie is critiquing capitalism the most. Do you know what that scene is?
Is it the scene where he says, "You have nothing to lose but your chains, workers of the world unite"? No, I don't necessarily. I mean, I've seen the film, so I'll probably know what you're saying. Just tell me.
It was the scene where he's examining the car that killed those people trapped inside of it. So he's like, it's the teenager's braces wrapped around the ashtray. Good anti-smoking ad, and that's what some guy says, and some other guy looking at the fat burn on the seat says, "Oh, very modern art." And then obviously the other guy laughs at the joke. And then Ed Norton explains to the woman how it costs less than settlements than the cost of a recall.
Yeah.
Car company. Then they don't do a recall. Putting money over safety, over people's lives, etc. And that is essentially, that's not consumerism, that's just critiquing capitalism at its heart, like how it's critiquing the profit motive above all else. But and the jokes about people dying as well, just showing the lack of humanity of these people. So I think that overall that scene, it is the biggest critique of capitalism, its priorities, its lack of humanity. But that's the only scene I can actually pinpoint and say yes, that is actually critiquing capitalist system. But I think everything else is basically just consumerism. Like there's this line that Tyler Durden says, which advertising has us buying cars and clothes, working jobs we hate, so you can buy shit we don't need. That's
everyone loves that line.
Yeah, I think everyone does. But that is critiquing consumerism, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's critiquing consumerism. Because that's the thing. Like people who are against advertising. Whatever. I read an article.
I don't give a shit.
Even in the Metro, and it was like it was saying that it said targeted advertising is the greatest threat to. I don't know, it said it wasn't the greatest threat to humanity, but it was basically talking about how targeted advertising is awful. And I was kind of thinking to myself, seeing as I'm a very strong-willed person, I was just thinking, just don't buy it, you idiots. Like I get all of this targeted advertising, and I just, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
I just look at it and I go, oh, okay. And sometimes targeted advertising is genuinely useful. Like the one time, let's not forget, when I was doing my dissertation on Yemen, and I legit got targeted advertising saying there was a sale on Verso for books about the Middle East. And you know what, Luke? I clicked on it, and I got some books about the Middle East because they were half price. And I was like, thank you, targeted advertising. You really did me a solid. But if targeted advertising is, that's the weird thing. I got targeted advertising for like an anime show, and I was like, what have I been doing? I've been watching too much hentai.
That is one of those moments in your life where you are.
I know, I have to reevaluate.
God. Again, I don't really care about advertising that much, to be honest.
We love advertising. To be honest, we wouldn't have to pay our bloody TV license if the BBC had adverts. Then we wouldn't have to deal with Americans making fun of us going, oi, you got a license for that TV?
Oh, is that what they say?
They're like for a lot of Americans, the fact that British people have a TV license is really funny, mostly because they think it means we need a license. So basically, you know how Americans will often present the UK as this Orwellian nightmare because we don't have guns and stuff.
Yeah.
They part of that is you need a license to watch the TV. So because the TV is evil and the state won't let you watch it.
All right, okay.
Which of course is not that. It's just a tax we have to pay so we can get David Attenborough to narrate over a bunch of wildlife animals.
Yes. Either escaping or having sex with each other. Those are the two things that happen at those wildlife shows. But anyway, I think there's actually one more scene which is kind of a critique of capitalism. It's when he's on the plane and basically he's saying all the passengers. Well, he's basically talked about how alienated he is. How far away he is from the people who he sits next to, and obviously alienation is something that Marx did talk about, his critique of capitalism. But I think ultimately, what this movie does, and it's similar to another movie, Michael,
yes,
which is the Dark Knight or the Joker or whatever. the movie is The Dark Knight, the character is the Joker, because I was thinking more about that movie than the most recent one that was released.
Yeah. You spend a lot of time thinking about the Joker, don't you? Because we live in a society.
I know we live in a society, so yeah, he's feeling alienated from society, but yeah, obviously the turning point in Ed Norton's life is when he sort of accepts nihilism. He's stops worrying. It's liberating to him, and it does kind of feel like he has been blackpilled, if you will. I think that's the phrase. It's like, I've just given up on everything. He said, I let go, I found freedom, losing all hope was freedom. And then he goes to sleep, and his babies don't sleep as well. So that's the thing. He lives in a world that is so hollowed out and meaningless, but he doesn't turn to an alternative to capitalism. Instead, he turns to nihilism. Like, this is the only thing that can happen, I guess. Let's just give up. Let's just forget about it. He can't envision an alternative to his life. And that's why I think, it's the similarity that the Joker exists, because I think this movie unintentionally perhaps though identifies the problem with idealizing these characters like Tyler Durden and the Joker. So it's if you think about it, it's kind of a quick and easy way to tear stuff down. It makes you feel cathartic, championing I wish I could be Tyler Durden, I wish I could be the Joker, instead of implementing what would be positive change to the system or to the society that you are living in. So that's, I guess, this movie has kind of the same message about it that the Joker has. And again, Tyler Durden was, I guess, the prequel to the Joker in terms of like what young men who they identified with, who were angry with society and all that. Tyler Durden was the Joker before the Joker. And again, it's very unfortunate that, I guess it's inevitable because of how people consume media, how people get their beliefs from like TV shows and movies and stuff. But I think that's the case. Like Tyler Durden, his alternative to capitalism is just nihilism, and and that is something that I think is a shame. To be honest, that is the reality of the situation in our society. That's what a lot of young men are drawn towards. So that's just that's my 2 cents on that.
It would have been more realistic if Tyler Durden would have stood there and gone, hello there, everybody. Today I think it would be good if we spoke about how the best way to get over the failings of your life is to learn about Western civilization and fight for a future for the white race.
I was wondering who you were doing then. I was like, that's got to be Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
I was like, who's he doing an impression of? He's fallen off a bit, Jordan Peterson.
Hey guys, so I noticed that you're unhappy with your lives. The first step is to clean your room, and also make sure that you question why 13% of the US population is responsible for 52% of the US's crime rate.
And also lobsters. Can't forget about
the lobsters.
And lobsters. Yeah, no, that's a good impression actually. You should be very proud of that.
Thank you. I've been working on it for a while because I felt like last week I feel, or maybe the week before that, we spoke about Jordan Peterson, and I did an impression and it wasn't quite good enough, so I thought I'd really work on it to make sure I could. Because I know he's going to come up.
He definitely is. So you're going to think, because I got something else to say about this movie, but and it's
something else to say about this movie. I mean, the capitalism thing.
Yeah, but so I think I've talked for a while. So do you want to go and say something?
No, I mean, I guess like kind of the whole idea of defining yourself through your possessions. I don't know if you brought that up, but when he says what dining room set defines me as a person, I think that's like it's an interesting thing, especially, I mean, so from my perspective, it's kind of relatable. So I'm going to talk about how I am the basic bitch that this film condemns, because I think in a way there's a part of you that when you want to redefine yourself, there is a tendency to start that off with at least some purchases. Like you buy things that match and things that form a set and things that work well together, and it's part of like that becomes a form of or an extension of your self-improvement. And that's something I can relate to, but a better example of it, and this is something which I don't necessarily do, although you need to do it to some extent, obviously, because it's necessary, but the best analogy I can think of is the episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where Dee and Dennis start going to the gym, and instead of working out at all they do is get into the consumerist culture of going to the gym.
Yeah.
So they show up to the gym and they don't want to do any work. And they're like, loads of people are wearing loads of like clothes. We should go buy some gym clothes. And then they buy some gym clothes. And then they show up and they're like, I'm noticing loads of people are, taking all of these different nutritional things. So let's hold off on the exercise for now and just do nutritional things. And then obviously they only do the kind of consumerist aspect and never actually do any of the gym things. And that would be an example of where like consumerism becomes not only a means of self-identity, which is obviously bad, but also kind of like a form of self-improvement. So it's like, yeah, this object will kind of be part of you, the new you. And I will say, like, I suppose my if we're talking about this film, if we're imagining that this film is making an argument, I kind of, to an extent, disagree.
Okay, so I see, there's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek.
I'm kind of, you know what, no, yeah, I am.
You're on this movie's side then.
Let's see, I think I'm adopting the best position in all situations, which is I'm being a bit of a centrist. I think, yeah, sure, consumerism's bad, and like excessive consumerism's bad. But at the same time, you know what, sometimes actually saying, we're gonna define our room, or like give this room a certain character by buying all of these things, is actually a good thing to do, because it's basically just being organized. You're saying, like, okay, we've got a lounge, what can we do? And also, I would say, dare I say, interior decor is a legitimate form of self-expression. I mean, I don't think you can deny that. Interior decor is a legitimate form of self-expression, and that would include consuming things, buying things, and working out where things need to go. So, and another example, just in relation, would be fashion. Like, fashion is a legitimate form of self-expression. Obviously, I'm a massive fashionista, but some people are even more so. And if someone wants to be like, I'm going to get some nice plimsolls, Converse, which work with my chinos and my shirt, and I'm going to get a jacket that matches. You know what? That's fine. I guess the ultimate thing, though, is that it's a case of moderation. All I'm saying is that sometimes you need to express yourself, but you shouldn't act as if expressing yourself in one particular way encompasses the totality of your being.
Okay, so I'm going to do some of my analysis now, I guess, on this movie, because I think this movie makes, again, some good points which I think are unintentional. Yeah, I think maybe it is unintentional. I don't know, because it's hard to say, because there are some elements of anti-capitalist stuff. Obviously, Ben Tyler Durden says, things you own end up owning you. That is, quite. It's kind of a Marxist thing to say, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
So yeah, it does critique capitalism in that way, but then obviously you say, the blowing of the credit card buildings is because they want to erase the debt. Why do they want to erase the debt? It's because of the shitty things that these credit card companies have done. No, because you want everybody to start back at zero again, and that's anarchist and not really anti-capitalist. So yeah, and I guess the movie does actually endorse that language. I guess they don't endorse the endpoint of what Tyler's saying about masculinity, but they do endorse that anti-consumerist message, which is it's something that quite a lot of things in the late 90s did. Obviously, American Beauty did that as well, and
American Pie.
Yeah, and it's interesting just. American Pie did that. I didn't think so. Did the Matrix kind of do it as well?
Matrix did.
Good. I mean, I'm just trying to remember that. I haven't seen that movie in a while.
It's like, guys, like there's a bit where it's like, I know that this really expensive steak I'm consuming isn't real, but I don't give a shit because I love it, because it makes me feel rich, bitch.
Yeah. So that's a very late 90s thing, and I think it is just because of the fact that obviously you're breaking up from the Cold War. There wouldn't be anything like this happening in the 80s or the 70s, because you've got the Soviet Unions, and it's...
Oh, wait, when was American Psycho?
The Psycho was 99 as well.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, no, there seemed to be this movement, certainly in media, towards like, oh shit, is this all that life is? Is this what life has now become? Just us basically, working office jobs 9 to 5, and
what a way to make a living.
Yeah, what a way to make a living, doing boring jobs, buying stuff like, as Tyler Durden says, that you don't need, that end up owning you, and all of that. And there was this kind of seemingly thought about this, because what was the comparison? There wasn't like a Soviet Union that you could compare this system to. It's like, well, at least we're not the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union didn't exist anymore.
Back in the USSR.
Yeah, so this is what you got. And the reason,
and it wasn't a Venezuela, right?
Yeah,
that's a real problem.
And the reason why this thing didn't continue, out of this, I guess, cultural moment didn't continue, is because obviously then afterwards the terrorists came and blew everything up. So
now we need to consume our data to stick it to them.
Then it's all about national security and stuff. That's what people's minds were focused on, instead of, hey, maybe there's more to life than this. It's like, oh no, shit, we need to make sure we don't get blown up. And then obviously you have a recession, and then Trump comes in and all that. So in America, at least, and we get Brexit. So yeah, that's why there hasn't been that kind of thinking, and that's why it does feel like, because if you think about it, a lot of people now who are in poverty. Obviously, we see massive inequality, and we look at these people now. And I think the Honest Trailers pointed this out while I was watching it on Fight Club. It's like, how can you complain when you've got a good paying job? You know, you've got basically everything's fine for you. You don't have any issues. You've got plenty of free time to watch TV. That was the thing back in the late 90s. That was because things were better than they were now, and in mid 2000s, certainly for just white people, I guess. Yeah, that was a big issue.
Right.
So yeah, it's just funny how things change over time. In that regard,
you're right.
Just one more thing. I think I don't know if this is. I'm going to say this is my analysis of this movie. Okay, Michael, this is my analysis. Right, this isn't the movie's analysis because I don't think this movie is making this claim. But I think what the
Jews are responsible for all our
What is the
problems.
ultimate goal?
Calm down, Jeremy.
Of capitalism, Michael.
The ultimate goal of capitalism is to own capital.
It is
the ultimate.
It is. I was going to say it was to create someone like Edward Norton, perfect servant of capitalism. Alienated, has that sickening depression in his life, like Brad Pitt points out. Needs to please people. Obviously, he's buying loads of products he doesn't need. Clever guy going along with the system. Obviously, he says he's a clever guy. Brad Pitt's like, oh, how's that working out for you? He says he has another line where he's like, he's close to being complete with all his items. Like, I think he...
Yeah.
I don't know if this movie... Maybe David Fincher would say, oh yeah, that's a good point. What if I said this to him? I don't know. I don't think so, though. I don't think he would have thought of this. But I just thought this was the case. And, I don't know. What do you have to say about that?
I would say he's kind of the perfect capitalist worker. I mean, I would say actually, in a way, possibly... There's different types. I mean, when you think about it, there are literally people out there in America right now who are working like 60-hour work weeks and are like proud of it. You ever seen you get the people who are like, the people who are like, hey, why should these McDonald's workers get $15 an hour when I work a 60-hour work week at my local stationery store and I only make enough to just get by even with huge amounts of debt? And it's like, yeah, well, why don't you just sort out, you dickhead? There's like people like in American society right now, there are people who are proud of how much they're being taken advantage of.
Oh, it happens in the UK as well with the McDonald's strike things as well. Like, I know America, it's the worst, and we always bring up America because,
we are,
the excesses.
The thing is, England is bad only insofar as it's similar to America.
Yeah. Like,
that's the 100% truth. That's the T.
So many people on Twitter just saying, like, oh, McDonald's, they don't deserve that wage. They can't even get my order right. And it's just, oh, fucking hell, man. Fucking hell.
It's true.
It's good.
It's true.
So, yeah, that's, okay, you could say maybe... Yeah, I like the point you make. I like the counterpoint. I do. I think that's a good point. Maybe in terms of the consumer, he's capitalism's ultimate goal.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. Like, I'd say he's capitalism's ultimate kind of middle class white guy. But the people who like talk about how proud they are of working 60-hour work weeks and hardly making enough to get by, they're capitalism's perfect working class white guy. So,
yeah, you got those.
Yeah, capitalism has different.
Those tweets I see sometimes pop up on the timeline from the people I follow in America, from like CNBC or CBS, who say this mom works 60 hours a week and walks to her job every day because she can't afford a car. And I think it was maybe KFC, and so KFC bought her a car. She shouldn't have to do that, obviously. So yeah, I guess you are right. That is a good point.
But thank you, our gracious capitalist overlords, for giving us the means to travel to our work.
And Tyler Durden is the. So this is more my analysis. Tyler Durden, I think, is obviously men have a fantasy of wanting to be Tyler Durden. I think. Yeah,
and women have a fantasy of wanting Tyler Durden.
And I think capitalism, it creates that fantasy. Because obviously people are so alienated, so lacking in humanity, so stressed out with their job and all of that, and at the end of the day,
killing everyone would be lit.
He is the one that I guess this is why I'm going to bring up a parallel to the 2019 version of the Joker, because obviously there's been a bunch of analysis in that movie, but I think that movie more than anything else is like a warning to the, I guess, capitalist class, the ruling class, in that, hey, if you push people, if you squeeze people so hard, then they'll eventually turn on you and eat you and shoot you.
Eat the rich.
Yeah, and kill you. And this is what kind of Tyler Durden's like. Obviously, this guy, Ed Norton, has just been, he's been sold out. He doesn't have a soul anymore. And therefore, he has to create someone like Tyler Durden to exist. And so, yeah, I really do think, again, it just backs up my point that Tyler Durden is the prequel to the Joker. in that regard. They really are very, very similar, even though they do look quite different, obviously. But in their attitudes and how they come about, their origins, I think is definitely with.
Yeah, I'd like Tyler Durden to come about.
Have you seen the 2019 Joker movie, by the way?
No, I haven't. Mostly because I don't care, Luke, because I'm not an incel.
Oh. Okay. So that's just my thoughts on this movie. Capitalism, consumerism. Again, it's kind of critiques capitalism, but it's more of a critique of consumerism. I think that would be fair to say.
Yeah, my thoughts would be capitalism more like crapitalism.
Yeah. Okay, and so that's really good. That's really clever. Mark should have written that.
Thank you.
Instead. Anyway, shall we get on to masculinity now, Michael?
Yeah, let's get on to masculinity.
So yes, the anti-consumerist message that Tyler Durden has, possibly anti-capitalist, like we discussed it, then morphs into a message about men being emasculated.
Men being emasculated. So
go on. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I want to talk about the weird thing. The film kind of starts in a place that is sort of critical of conventional masculinity. The reason I say that is because the whole thing is he can't cry, so he goes to support groups to learn how to cry, and that's how he kind of deals with his problems, which you'd think naturally would be sort of a critique of conventional masculinity, because you'd be saying, oh, look, he couldn't express his emotions because of how men are often not encouraged to properly express their emotions, and by being between Bob's bitch tits, he learns to cry due to embracing a non-masculinity, and that causes him to be happy. So then I suppose the question becomes, but then obviously the film kind of moves on from that as if it never happened to then say, hey guys, you've been cucked, and you need to be real men by going out and just bloody having the paleo diet.
Yeah.
You got to eat more.
No, here's the thing. It's literally, when I was watching this, I was like, oh, this is some Alex Jones bullshit. That's what I was thinking. Did you see the advert for his new, what was it? It was called Caveman. And it was a supplement. I don't know, you put it in some water and you drank it. And it's made of bone broth, I think.
No, he's got this thing called super male vitality. That's been his big thing, but maybe he's moved on.
No, the Caveman ad was just hilarious. It's bone broth. Our ancestors used every part of the animal, including the bones.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true, yeah. Well, I took my bone broth and then I boned somebody at a brothel.
Yeah, I can tell you're getting tired now. You're unleashing more and more sex jokes. Yeah. But all that hunter-gatherer stuff, and how can you know who you are if you've never been in a fight, challenging his masculinity and all that. And after they start fighting, it becomes a different movie. And the thing is, I didn't enjoy this theme. I don't think this movie endorses this message, these ideas that Tyler Durden is espousing on masculinity. But that right there is something that it's kind of a dangerous mix, obviously, and we'll get onto that later, of anti-capitalist message and men being emasculated. Kind of a dangerous mix of ideas there. But I guess it's a message which is true. Here's the thing, I guess, I think it's stupid, obviously, we're not masculine enough. But this was a phenomenon in the 1990s, and even to this day, obviously, that's morphed into some internet subcultures, this toxic masculinity thing. But I get, if you look at, I don't know if you've seen the documentary called Fighting in the Age of Loneliness, which is on YouTube.
No, I haven't.
It's about the UFC. It's written by John Boyes and Felix Biederman, basically about the UFC and how it evolved over time. And I'm not really a big fan of the UFC, but I really liked it. So, I don't know. But basically, the documentary, it's on YouTube, by the way. You can just watch it on YouTube. They talk about the professional culture of the 1990s, political correctness and all of that. And they talk about, how it's such in stark contrast to the 1980s and how macho that were. And suddenly you found a bunch of people who were kind of just confused about the world that they were growing up in. And then they had, this is when the UFC got popular. And I think Felix Biederman's theory is that you see, it's so different to see people actually beating each other to death in the UFC. And the world just made sense again to these people.
That's true.
I guess they need to feel human concept. They need to feel rage. So again, obviously, this happened with Eminem as well. I think a lot of people who like this movie liked Eminem. There was a lot of rage in his music, and obviously, yeah, we can continue that trend of angry young males into the modern day. But yeah, it's a Joker. Yeah, but yeah, like, what do you think of that?
Yeah. So I mean, yes. Ultimately, I think the main question is, to what extent does this film... I don't think this film really critiques what it says about masculinity, which is strange because, like I say, there is kind of the foundations for that.
What do you mean it doesn't critique it?
As in, I don't think so. I don't think this film actually
critiques
really...
what Tyler Durden is saying about masculinity.
Yeah. It seems like, and that's the thing. Like, I imagine lots of guys. There is no reason why a kind of misogynist red pill kind of person wouldn't watch this film 100% agree with it. I think, having said that though, this film also clearly shows what's wrong with masculinity. I think it's an example of, if you get it, you get it. Like, if you are a red pill person who's an idiot, then you'll agree with this film. But also, if you aren't that, you'll agree with this film, but because you understand that what this film shows is, like, bad, because there is something, I think, intrinsically destructive about masculinity. Like, there's a scene where Edward Norton says, like, I wanted to destroy something beautiful. And I feel like that's kind of, obviously, if you have this thing based on violence, then that's kind of where it leads. Like, the main thing almost seems to be, like, it's not about really trying to build up or anything or establish anything. You're just, like, angry. You're just like, yeah, let's just get a bloody stupid, pretty Jared Leto. He's so handsome. The point being, basically...
And that anger can lead to bad places.
Yeah. The anger, yeah, and the anger then leads to violence. See, the thing is, I liked the scene where they start picking fights with random strangers. I found that scene funny. But if you try and get a message out of that scene, then the message seems to be, these days, you can't pick a fight with somebody. You try to, you actively be aggressive to somebody, and they just try to diffuse the situation.
And it's like, that's what's wrong with the world.
Yeah, and it's like, well, that's a good thing. It's like, yeah, it's good. Like, if somebody, tried to start a fight with me, I'd try to walk away, and I don't necessarily. I'm not watching it. Yeah.
Here's the thing: is the movie? You said the movie isn't critiquing the message. Do you think? Because I think it's not endorsing it. I think it is kind of just a warning shot. It's like, hey, this is what could happen. You've got a generation of angry young men who could be persuaded to think like this.
Yeah, I think, like, in some sense, I think it's kind of a mixed bag in that, for example, that scene in particular, the reason I bring that scene up is because the fact that there is a joke and we're supposed to understand what the joke is, and the joke seems to be, haha, people aren't willing to, engage in fights. That would be one moment where I think the film implicitly does support the mentality on show.
Tyler Durden's mentality.
The framing of it as comedic. But apart from that, I think when you get, and the things, that's one of the more subtle things though, I think when you get to the more explicit stuff, you could say, yes, it's not really endorsing it. And I do think, in some sense, it's valuable to be honest about masculinity. Because I think there is a certain, especially in a way, what's interesting is that this was occurring during the 1990s. And I think one thing that was interesting about the 1990s is, we've mentioned this before, and we seem to be just mentioning it pretty much every single week now, but girl power. The idea of, like, women, girls being girls, like the Spice Girls, Sugar and Spice and things nice, wearing pink and, like, I don't know, all that stuff. But they're powerful. Yeah, they're doing it for themselves. And I think there was kind of the logic being, in other words, that you can maintain, essentially the same gendered constructs in a broadly uncritiqued fashion. And as long as everybody is, fighting for power and fighting for success, then everything will be fine. That was kind of the message of 90s gender politics. And the thing here being, actually, no, because there are some aspects of constructed masculinity which are very dangerous when combined with... And I think the thing is that there is a type of feminism where if you were to say, actually, the masculinity that women might be going up against in, say, a corporate environment would be very, serious for them and would be something they would struggle to compete against. And the response would be, are you saying that women can't handle it? Are you saying that women can't, do whatever they want? And no, but the point is that the problem is that this constructed idea of masculinity exists in the first place, and that's what you need to critique. You can't just say, yeah, women can do whatever, women can compete with the big boys. So I think in a weird way, while this film doesn't explicitly say anything about feminism, this film is an interesting message to anybody who would just kind of have that view of, yeah, it's not about what these socially constructed gender norms say and communicate. That doesn't matter at all. What matters is, are you going to give it 110% at the new boardroom meeting? And basically this film is kind of very aggressively saying, hey, that's not going to cut it. These guys want that power back that they had in the 1950s when they were in charge of everything, and now they feel directionless and lost, so they're going to beat you up.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thoughts.
I know. And that's the thing. People, I think you're right broadly. And I think the thing is, people do take that shit seriously. Like, when he's walking through the office with his bruises, and he's saying, yeah, these are bruises from fighting. Yeah, like Edward Norton's too real for them. It's just like,
yeah, man.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. You just cringe at that. And, without pain, without sacrifice, we had nothing. Another line from Brad Pitt. And
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it is.
It's like, Alex Jones.
So that's the funny
thing. Really
thing.
Is.
Actually, yeah. One other thing. I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about masculinity? Because I had one other thing. I don't know if you have loads more things.
No, not really.
Okay, the only other thing I want to say about masculinity is, like, obviously there's going to be, like, a lot. This is the kind of thing where you can imagine, like, incels and, red pill and all that kind of stuff would be really, like, on board with this. The funny thing is that, like, it's Brad Pitt saying all of this, and I think this is a general thing that you can't help but notice with a lot of these, red pill male empowerment things. Like, the way it's presented in, like, kind of the popular media is it's always, like, these really hot, good-looking, babe magnets. And in reality, like, if like, the actual red pill people who believe this would... spoiler alert, Luke, it's a film.
They look more like Ed Norton.
Life, people, yeah, exactly. Ed Norton's not too unattractive, but
he just
basically, in real life, people don't look like movie stars, and people don't give these speeches that are as if they were written by some kind of screenwriter. In reality, I guess that's the thing. By presenting, the problem is all films have a narrative, and reality doesn't really have a narrative. So, and I think in these people's heads, they're like they put themselves into this narrative. So they're like, yeah, oh man, I went to school and people used to think I was quite smart, and then when I left school, I wasn't really able to achieve anything, and I went into a job I hated. So clearly, I must be Tyler.
Yeah,
Durden.
no, that is that's why I said before, yeah. Tyler. He is a fantasy.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, I think everyone is aware of this. But yeah.
But then you associate that with his particular ideology, and it's like, well, his ideology isn't really why I want to bang him, is it? It's because he's so bloody hot.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyway.
Like young Stalin.
Oh, God. Yeah, and actually, I did have one more thing to say. Obviously, you have Bob with his bitch tits, and this movie makes a point that men like Bob, they've been emasculated. Look at this, they have tits, they're crying. It's much healthier for him to reject society and act on his primal instincts. And
live a little. All right in the end, doesn't he?
And I think that was kind of like Breaking Bad and Walter White in that respect. Obviously, the way he doesn't want to have medical care and instead becomes a drug dealer. That kind of attitude, like, I just want to fucking live. Fuck it. And that is something that is within, I think, pretty much everybody. But yeah, again, the question is, does that movie endorse that view?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's like,
because Breaking Bad doesn't,
but unclear at best. But
unclear at best.
Yeah, it doesn't really. It never offers an explicit condemnation of it. Or really even explores the kind of nuances of any of the opinions being offered. And then at worst, you can point to the examples where the framing of the film and the tone of the film very much does seem to imply that we are supposed to agree with this, being presented. I don't know. What do you think, Luke?
Well, here's where we segue into the actual message of the movie. Yeah. I'm going to read you some stuff from David Fincher. And basically, the question is the proper masculinity, or is masculinity, or the message of the movie is masculinity a problem, or masculinity isn't a problem and instead the world is too sanitized? So that is kind of the question. And I think this movie has a pretty clear anti-consumerist message. I don't think it's actually saying, oh no, consumerism is good. So this is, I guess, the question. And I'm going to go to Wikipedia here and bring something up from David Fincher, which I found was quite interesting. So he said, we're designed to be hunters and we're in a society of shopping. There's nothing to kill anymore. There's nothing to fight, nothing to overcome, nothing to explore. In that societal emasculation, this everyman, the narrator, is created. So he's saying this is a phenomenon that is happening, but he's not, I don't think, saying that is a good phenomenon to happen, if you understand.
Yeah.
So again, it just appears he's like, oh, this is what's happening. And I guess I can't really find a critique of him specifically critiquing this Tyler Durden's views on masculinity.
Yeah, you're right. And also, I mean, the fact that he says, like, we're designed to hunt, I mean, kind of, but also there's not really much evidence to suggest that that's obviously what he would be espousing there, is what's called evolutionary psychology, which in other words is when you say that our psychology is the result of evolution, which is actually quite a controversial claim in behaviorology. I guess that's what it's called, behavioral biology. So it's a controversial claim to make outright, and it's not necessarily, but you could just say he's just happens to believe it. And obviously it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world to believe a controversial claim, but yeah, it's not necessarily true. Idiot.
Okay, yeah. It says here he also mistakenly promotes the fight clubs as a way to feel powerful.
Okay, yeah.
So that would imply that's a critique.
Yeah, that is a critique.
Is there a critique of that? Like, does it... I guess, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, what does his character do? His character's trying to stop this terrorist organization from winning. His character at the end of the movie is running around trying to stop the bombs from going off. So you could say, but there isn't... The problem, though, is that he doesn't have an argument with one of his people, or an argument with Tyler Durden necessarily, as to why he is in the wrong. There's no, like, philosophical argument. He just decides to stop it. And if there was, like, a argument that Ed Norton saying to Brad Pitt, like, no, this is a wrong thing to do because of X, X, and X, then I would say yes. You could argue this movie is explicitly saying it is wrong for Tyler Durden to have this message. Tyler Durden's message is wrong. Tyler Durden's attitude is wrong. But yeah, that isn't the case. There is not that argument. There is not that debate or argument from Ed Norton. So yeah, that is I think. Yeah, because I was waiting for that. It's like, so he is clearly against what is happening, but why? It'd be nice if he was to espouse that.
Yeah, actually, I don't really. I mean, that's the thing. It's kind of just like, in some sense, and this is actually a quite fundamental point, but the fact that he is like really, like I say, against the direction that this movement is going in seems to just be because he's the main character.
Yes. There isn't a reason why he doesn't want these buildings to blow up. There needs to be an actual physical manifestation of his manifestation. He just needs to say it.
Oh,
Just needs to say why.
Reification.
A reification, is that the word?
I don't know. Reification. I feel like I mentioned it last time we spoke, but it basically means to make something real, which it would technically.
Right. Okay, I guess so. So yeah, that's why. I guess you can infer from the David Fincher quotes that maybe he thinks the problem is masculinity and people thinking like Tyler Durden, but again, there isn't a critique of it, and that could lead people to watch this movie and maybe think, oh, Tyler Durden's right, and Tyler Durden's message is correct, and that's what led. I think I was going to talk to you about this. I guess it's in the cultural impact section on Wikipedia. You can read about this, about how there was several fight clubs that started in the United States after this. A gentleman's fight club was started in California. Teens and preteens in Texas, New Jersey, Washington State, and Alaska initiated fight clubs and posted videos of their fights online. In 2006, an unwilling participant from a high school was injured in a fight in Arlington, Texas, and the DVD sales of the fight led to the arrest of 6 teenagers. The film was suspected of influencing Luke Helder, a college student who planted pipe bombs in mailboxes in 2002. Helder's goal was to create a smiley pattern on the map of the United States, similar to the scene in Fight Club in which a building is vandalized to have a smiley on its exterior. So there you go. I like this one, by the way. In September 2015, 2 employees at the Lightbridge Academy, a New Jersey daycare center, were charged with instigating Fight Club-style brawls between children aged 4 to 6 years old.
That sounds adorable.
I know, it sounds great. The fights were reportedly filmed and uploaded to Snapchat and involved approximately a dozen boys and girls. In the video, one of the perpetrators, Erica Kenny, can be heard making references to Fight Club. So
have you ever seen... there's a website called How Many 5-Year-Olds Could You Take in a Fight? So you should check that out.
All right, yeah. So if Ed Norton had said that message had refuted Tyler Durden's ideas and his ideology, would those incidents I just listed happen? Probably still, because people just are so dumb. They're like, oh yeah, Tyler Durden's cool. But I still think there should have been an anti-Tyler Durden message concerning masculinity espoused by Ed Norton in that final scene.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're right, Luke. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Yeah, I am right.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Another thing regarding message, right? I just want to say that the message, of the film, it's a bit unclear, and the reason why I just have two examples. The first one is that when Tyler, this is like the weirdest thing for me, when Tyler like pretends he's going to kill that guy, and then tells him to become a veterinarian, it's completely inconsistent with the message of the film. The message of the film seems to essentially be, don't let yourself believe in dreams. Don't like, the idea of like aspiring to some kind of dream career or anything like that is not what we're supposed to be about. We're supposed to be about living for the moment, just fighting each other, being violent. And yet then suddenly he's like, oh, you've got this dream that you wanted to do. You've got this ideal career path you want to go down. You should go down it, Buster. It's not like, that's the thing. Like at that point, for some reason, Tyler Durden just out of nowhere becomes like a self-motivation guy. Like when he's doing the Fight Club, he's not going like, hey guys, you need to work out what you want to do. And you want to, work hard at it. You really want to make inroads into whatever career you want to do, because you will have dreams, and your dreams are very valid, and you should pursue them. No, he's saying like, hey, your dreams are stupid. They were fed to you by a system that lies to you, and ultimately the only thing you can really hope for is to just create mayhem and destruction, and that's why we're all about Fight Club. So it makes no sense.
Yeah, that is really right. Actually, yeah, he becomes like a life coach in that scene.
Yeah.
Like a really psyched up life coach who goes to extreme lengths to get the best for his clients. But yeah, that is the case. He's definitely not a life coach. He literally tries to break people down. He talks about self-destruction. You need to self-destruct, and he's saying to this guy, you need to become better than what you are.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. There is a
idiot, stupid,
hypocritical. This last bit is about fascism. So Roger Ebert had basically wrote a review worrying about fascism and how this movie could lead to people going down that path. And Fincher said in response to that, well, not the response to the column, but just the accusation in general, he said, I love this idea that you can have fascism without offering any direction or solution. Isn't the point of fascism to say this is the way we should be going? But this movie couldn't be further from offering any kind of solution.
All right.
So here's the thing, it is kind of non-ideological. You're tearing down capitalism, consumerism, I guess, but replacing it with what? And the movie doesn't say, it's just anarchists. It's just, well, the question is, I guess, could a person who is an anarchist, a person who is nihilistic, could they go down the path to fascism? And
if they were an anarcho-capitalist, yes.
Well, I definitely think, yes, somebody who is nihilistic, somebody who is black-pilled, could very easily fall in love with fascism, as has happened many times over the years. So yeah, that's the thing. Like, the question, I guess, is, well, what does if Tyler Durden still existed after all the buildings fell down? Well, what do we do now? What do we do now? Now everyone's back at zero again. What is the best society?
Probably one that protects white children and ensures a future for the white race.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. The movie never explicitly answers that, and it doesn't have to, because it ends kind of, get out of jail free there. No, it doesn't. Oh, we're ending the movie right now. So no, I'm kidding. Of course, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. The point was just to have that the path of the journey of Ed Norton until the buildings come down. But yeah, I guess it's anarchism can lead to fascism very easily. So yeah, I wanted to say, go on.
Basically, for me, I actually genuinely. So I said that there was something kind of destructive about masculinity. I think there's certainly something destructive about fascism. Like I remember somebody said that fascism is a death cult. And
that's a bit of an understatement when you say. Yeah. Not the death cult bit. There's something destructive.
The destructive. Yeah. Well, I think the thing is with fascism is it's often presented as like building up. Like, have you ever seen the video "Take Back Our Future"? It's like this proper. It's like the greatest piece of alt-right modern propaganda. Basically, it's it's like this guy is watching so just on the internet, and then like these really buff. It's animated. This really buff Nazis walk by, and he like goes out, and they take him to the gym, and he starts building things up, and then they go into a school, and there's all these like gay people there, and they like basically just fight all the gay people, and then
That's great.
And then it cuts to them demolishing a mosque, and then they start building a church, and then basically it just cuts to the guy, and he's got like 2 kids and a pool in the suburbs, and he's got a wife, and that's it. That's like the message. So the message is, if you go fight a bunch of gay people and knock down a mosque and build a church, then you'll have a wife and kids. But the thing is, like, there's always like another thing that needs to happen. Like, Hitler hated the Mediterraneans like a lot. Like, Hitler and Mussolini did not get on because Hitler considered the Mediterraneans to be an inferior race. Point being that if Hitler had won World War II, which was pretty much impossible anyway, but even if he had,
I just didn't just attack Stalin, then he would have been fine.
Yeah, I know, but then he wouldn't have had any oil, and also Stalin would have attacked him. Like Daddy Stalin would have really gone in there.
Stalin attacked Hitler?
Because Stalin just really wanted to spread communism. I think the main opinion is that the USSR was rapidly industrializing, thanks to how much of a failure communism is. But but basically, the USSR was actually getting like stronger and stronger. And basically, the USSR's main priority in the run-up to Operation Barbarossa was just to delay World War II. Like, they knew Germany was going to attack them at some point. Now, like, okay, we've just got to delay it for as long as possible.
I know. But so, when does that become Stalin attacking Hitler?
Well, so like basically, I feel like at some point he'd be like, well, they hate us, we hate them. Right now, we've got the upper hand because we're like more powerful, so we'll just attack him. But also, Hitler needed oil anyway, which that's why he invaded like the Caucasus. I think there's a good argument to be made that invading Russia was, while not strictly necessary, it had some tactical advantage. I don't know. Let's stop talking about our alternative history scenarios for Nazi victory and talk about an alternative history scenario for Nazi victory, where the point being, even if Hitler had won World War II, he would have just hated Italians. Like, they would have just gone to war with the Mediterraneans, and then they'd be like throwing the Mediterraneans into concentration camps, like the Meds. Basically, there's always like another person on the chopping block, because it's just about having an enemy and fighting the enemy and destroying the enemy.
Oh, I think there's a famous quote which
first they came for the white middle class office workers, and I said nothing. But the thing is, basically, point being, I genuinely think like fascism. I think I've said this before. Fascism is school shooter mentality. I think that, like, especially modern fascism, like, because the biggest hub of modern fascism I can think of is Pol. Like, Pol, the 4chan subreddit, or 4chan thing, is like the number one place where there are like actual fascists. It's the place where they congregate, which of course makes sense because it's a big unmoderated forum. But the point being, like, literally, if you actually look at it, you kind of get the impression these are the same people who would also engage in school shootings. And that's why it's not really surprising that a huge amount of terrorist attacks are from white nationalists. Because I think it's genuine. It's like, I'm angry at the world. I want to destroy things. So, and that's the thing. Like, I genuinely think, and I've thought this before, like, I actually think that a lot of rabid racists don't actually dislike minorities, but rather they actually kind of like them. But the line that, Edward Norton says, where he says, after punching Jared Leto,
I like how you related this back to Fight Club, finally.
Yeah, he says, I wanted to destroy something beautiful. And there's part of me that genuinely thinks, like, actually, the reason why, for example, Dylan Roof shot the church in Charleston isn't exactly because he hated black people. I don't think he really thinks, like, oh, black people are, responsible for huge amounts of crime, or black people are welfare queens, or whatever else, and that's why I'm going to shoot them. I think he did it because he saw the happiness and the joy and the sense of community in that local church, and because he had that kind of nihilistic school shooter mentality, he wanted to destroy it.
I think
that's
you're
what
saying something quite true, which is people who fall into, like you talked about Paul on 4chan, and people who fall into this like Nazi talk on Stormfront and all that, they're kind of lost. That's how they fall into it. Obviously, it's radicalization. This has been well documented in recent years. My life's going shit. And then they're not happy with anything, and they're just looking for an outlet. And then, obviously, people take advantage of that. Steve Bannon, obviously, he was all about that. Obviously, Trump's main guy in the 2016 election. Yeah, so that, again, it's just, and that's why I say...
happened to him recently, but...
Yeah, I don't know either. But that's the thing, that you have people who are lost, and that's how they can fall into anarchism. They can be manipulated by a charismatic Tyler Durden to do stuff they wouldn't otherwise do. Because, they've just got no self-esteem or confidence or whatever. And the same can be said in fascism. It's just another pathway, I think, for people who are basically, just lost to then go down that rabbit hole. So, I think there is a definite comparison between fascism and the people who were in that fight club and the people who would be fascists. I think that's definitely the case. I guess that is that.
Yeah. So, apart from that, let's move on to, I think you want to talk about reaction to the release.
The reaction to the release, yes. So, again, we talked quite a bit about, just then, about how I think there was people who took the wrong message from Fight Club, but here's the thing: people take the wrong message from the Joker, the movie that came out in 2019. I don't think it's that big a deal. It wasn't with the Joker, and I don't think it was Fight Club. Like I mentioned, you had a few scuffles to prove our point, like a few fights, but nothing like major, nothing like actually what happened in the movie. And in the same case with the Joker, incels didn't come up from their basements and start killing everybody once they'd seen that movie. But anyway, so this is just from Wikipedia, by the way. Upon Fight Club's theatrical release, The Times reported the reaction. It touched a nerve in the male psyche that was debated in newspapers across the world. Although the filmmakers called Fight Club an accurate portrayal of men in the 1990s, some critics called it irresponsible and appalling. Writing for Australian newspaper, Christopher Goodwin said Fight Club is shaping up to be the most contentious mainstream Hollywood meditation on violence since Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange. While Fight Club had numerous critical champions, the film's critical attackers were far more vocal. Negative chorus which became hysterical about what they felt to be excessively graphic scenes of fisticuffs. They felt such scenes served only as a mindless glamorization of brutality, a morally irresponsible portrayal, which they feared might encourage impressionable young male viewers to set up their own real-life fight clubs in order to beat each other senseless. And of course that did happen, but again, it's kind of like the hand-wringing about Joker. It's like, it happened.
What's it called? Do the Right Thing.
Yeah, Do the Right Thing. Yeah. Literally, there was a paragraph above that which mentioned Do the Right Thing, which I decided not to include, but yeah, it's again like, critics a section of critics just thinking like, oh no, people will see this movie and all hell will break loose, whether it's a racist assumption or just people will be influenced and suddenly we'll have fight clubs, doing what happened in the movie. Of course that didn't happen. There was incidents, but nothing major, and I don't think there's been any incel shootings from people inspired by the Joker movie either.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, it's just a moral outrage, moral panic. Yeah. And again, it's happened in 1999, happened in 1989, and happened in 2019. And it probably happened with a movie in 2009.
Yeah, why not?
Just to make it symmetrical.
I don't know, Zombieland.
Zombieland.
People thought there were really going to be zombies rising up.
Yeah. Again, yeah, so that's it. I have nothing more to say on this movie apart from the conclusion.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the cinematography was interesting. Obviously, we've spoken a bit before about how it was a little bit weird. There was like, it was about this mental case, and you get all these weird inside jokes, or like what's it called? Full breaks. Like obviously, there's a bit where Tyler points at the thing and says, "This is how you know that the screen is or the reel is changing," and then he points at a bit. And he's like, "Yeah, this thing here will show you." Obviously, you know what I'm talking about. There's obviously weird things with people flashing up, things people addressing camera, and of course, there's a joke right at the end when because obviously the film starts with a flashback. We didn't really mention that, but obviously it starts with a flash. It starts with a flash forward. And then right at the end of the film, Edward Norton says, "I still don't know blah 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 blah," and Brad Pitt goes, "Flashback humor, nice." Which of course that's literally breaking the fourth wall. Like that's literally acknowledging the fact that this is a film where there is a structure. So good. Well done.
Well, yeah, I was looking on Wikipedia. Apparently, David Fincher needed to make it more to sell it. He needed to make it more humorous.
Yeah, there were obviously there's a line. The kind of famous line is, "I haven't been fucked like that since grade school." That's like there is like a comedic element to the film. It's kind of nihilistically comedic, but yeah.
Okay, so conclusion. Now, Michael, I think you should go first.
All right, yeah. This film is not. It's good, and I do like it. For me, the main problem with this film, if I kind of had to be simple, is there's not much to get from this film. And this was actually, it was interesting, really interesting when you brought up the fact that you said that you didn't really enjoy watching this film for the second time, knowing the twist. Because one of the only things I wrote down for my conclusion was that there's not much to get out of this film once you've seen it twice. And in essence, I think, yes, the problem with this reviewing this film is I do think if you've never seen it before, you should watch it. Especially, this is going to be completely meaningless because obviously, anybody listening to this is going to be useless information. But if you don't know the twist, you should watch it. Like I say, it doesn't mean anything to anyone listening to this because you probably know the twist if you've reached this point. But if you do not know the twist, you should watch it. And I would say it's kind of a fantastic film that everyone should watch if they don't know the twist. If you do know the twist, you can still get something out of it by kind of looking at the indications of it coming and things like that and looking at the way it develops. Problem is, you get to the third watch, there's nothing really. And the simplest issue I have with it is that the theme, there's nothing really to bring out of it because the theme is so on the nose. I keep using that phrase, but basically, literally the characters just tell you what the theme is. The characters tell you what the message is. And the only thing you can really do is say, well, am I supposed to get the message that the characters are telling me out of it, or am I supposed to draw something else out of it? But it's not like, for example, Arrival, where the themes can be drawn out more subtly, or even Toy Story 2. I'm looking at like my high-rated films. Toy Story 2 has themes which the characters don't explicitly tell you, and you kind of have to watch it and think about it. With this film, you don't really have to think that hard when you're watching it. And to me, that's a bit of an indictment. To say that, especially, and this is the real big problem, when this film doesn't have that much to offer apart from the themes, because there isn't really a huge plot apart from a bunch of characters standing around going, ooh, masculinity, ooh, consumerism, ooh, life is pointless. And you watch it and you go, yeah, okay. But then that's all there is. Like, it's literally the characters saying it, and there's not much you can get out of it apart from that. So, I will say, the positives are, yes, the twist is good. Yes, the interesting cinematographic directorial decisions are good. The acting's fine, and the themes are interesting at first glance. The downside is that the plot gets stale, and there's not much to it, and it gets stale once you know the twist, and that the themes are very direct, very clear, very obvious, but once you've identified them, and literally anybody on the planet could identify these themes after watching this film once, you don't get anything out of it from watching multiple times because there's nothing that much subtle going on in the themes. That's not great. All in all, I'm going to be, I think, maybe kind of nice to it because I think I like so much of it for the first time. I'm actually going to rate it as a low 7. And I'm going to put it above Zootopia, I think, and below Thor Ragnarok. That seems fine. So yeah, Fight Club there.
Okay, fair enough. So I'll just read. I said I was going to do this. If you remember, I'm just going to read an article.
That's fine. Yeah, I remember.
It's from a man who is. Oh shit! Did I fucking close it? I think I did.
Oh, that's alright. I can just find it, and we'll edit out you finding it.
Okay, because I just had it open. I must have accidentally closed it. Because I think it sums up my idea. Well, I think I disagree with one part. Okay. So yeah, so just to conclude from my point of view, Michael, I'm going to use an article which I agreed with, or for the most part anyway. It is by a guy called Scott Tobias, written about a month ago in The Guardian. And so this was his take on this. So, on Fight Club, obviously. Filmmakers who were trying to identify a violence nesting in the culture were accused of trying to incite it, or at least clumsily juggling lit sticks of dynamite. Wow.
That was a hard, I appreciate that was a hard sentence to say, Luke, don't worry.
Yeah, thank you. So, Fight Club was one of these movies. No less an authority than Roger Ebert opened his review of Fight Club by calling it the most frankly and cheerfully fascist big star movie since Death Wish, echoing widespread concern that impressionable men would lock into the empowering brutality of Tyler Durden and the army that gathers around him. Viewed from a certain angle, it looked like a recruitment film. The implication is that all that masculine energy needs an outlet, and since Generation X hasn't been provided with one, it will have to find some other way to channel its incoherent rage. And it's here where the film's meaning can get a little slippery. How much of what Tyler is saying is to be understood as nonsense? And if it's not nonsense, then how much does the film implicitly endorse? The film does recognise a phenomenon where men are waking in anger from a culture intended to numb or emasculate them. But it also sees in that the presence of sickening misogyny and the potential for fascism. And contrary to Ebert's review, it panics right alongside the narrator, who goes so far as to shoot himself in the head to stop it. So I guess you could say, yeah, well, he shoots himself in the head to stop it, but like we said before, there's no argument against Tyler Durden's arguments that he makes, which is a shame. And here's something which, again, we touched on with the lack of critique of fascism, I guess. Or anyway, so what Fight Club missed in 1999 and gets oh so close to getting is how much the rage it identifies is connected to white supremacy. But the world it anticipated is now upon us, with a host of Tyler Durden's marshalling attacks on perceived enemies and twisting the meaning of snowflake, a term used in the original book and popularised in the movie, to taunt the vulnerable. What are the Proud Boys, if not a roving gang of Project Mayhem thugs, or the Tiki Torchbearers of Charlottesville? Fight Club saw it coming, with thrilling vividness and wit and technical panache. Just don't shoot the messenger. So that's this guy's argument, and I think he gets a lot right. It is kind of like, hey, this is just a message. This is just showing what's happening with American men in the 1990s. This is just showing what they believe, what Tyler, this manifestation of their beliefs in Tyler Durden, what they actually could think, what they actually are thinking. But again, it doesn't offer a critique of that, and that is something that I think needs to be noted. Doesn't really do that. Like he says, how much does the film implicitly endorse? How much of what Tyler is saying is understood to be nonsense? These are questions which we don't know, and that's why we've just been discussing it for the last hour, or maybe a bit less than that. Yeah, and so overall, I think you are right in terms of just getting off the themes. So there's obviously my review of the themes, and obviously it's anti-consumerist more than anti-capitalist, I think, and yeah, that's fine. It is it's not subtle, but I'm okay with that, to be honest. I think ultimately, watching this movie for a second time, like I did, I didn't really enjoy it because it is a lot of just Tyler just saying stuff and like philosophizing. Is that a word?
It is. Yeah, I mean it is a word.
Yeah. So that's what he's doing. He's doing a bunch of that, and it's not that entertaining because you already know what's going to happen. You already know the twist. But I'll say this: if you're watching it for the first time, it's probably amazing. And you don't know the twist, obviously. Because that twist, I think it's very well executed, just gives you bits and pieces, which is nice when you're rewatching it, although there are some moments where I'm just constantly thinking, wait, how is this happening? And it does bug me, and it does annoy me, and it is sometimes difficult to focus on what's actually going on in the movie. But, it is such a great twist that maybe I shouldn't be so harsh on the movie in regards to that. But for the first time watching it, it is really, really good. And certainly everyone should probably see it once. And so that's the question. It's rewatchability is quite low, but watching it for the first time is really, really good. So where am I going to put this then, Michael? Where am I going to put this? I haven't decided yet. I'm just looking. Yeah, it's better than that. Is it better than that though?
No, that's the question. Yeah,
that is the question. Yeah, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. Okay. That's what I'm going to give it. So I'm going to give it slightly higher than you, I think.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so
we're allowed to disagree. That's
it. We have spent a lot of time talking about Fight Club, but it's a movie, I guess, with a lot of things to say, a lot of things to discuss. So, Michael, what are we going to discuss next week?
Well, next week, we are discussing another story about an angry man who wants to fight against a system, and that is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Yes, I can't wait for that. So, who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thank you for listening, where you've been selecting and reflecting on Fight Club, one of the most memorable movies from 1999 because of its 20-year anniversary. And join us next week for a very different movie in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Goodbye.